Okay, so for this module summary, it's over chapters 5 and 6, and they are both over cognitive development. And chapter 6 covered Piaget and Vygotsky's theories, and Piaget's theory of cognitive development. He talks about scheme, which is an organized group of similar actions or thoughts that are used repeatedly in response to the environment. He also talks about operation, which is an organized and integrated system of logical thought processes. Assimilation, which is a process of responding either physically or mentally to a new event in a way that is consistent with an existing scheme. Accommodation, which is the process of responding to a new event by either modifying an existing scheme or forming a new one. Object permanence is the realization that objects continue to exist even when they're not in sight. And the video that we had watched showed an example of object permanence when the mother was covering the ball with a pillow and the baby would look and then he wouldn't know where the ball went, and then when she uncovered it he would see it again, and he obviously had no object permanence developed yet. Symbolic thought is the ability to mentally represent and think about external objects and events. Piaget had 4 stages of development, the first one being sensory motor, which is beginning at birth. And schemes are based largely on behaviors and perceptions, especially in the early part of the stage. Children cannot think about things that are immediately in front of them, and so they focus on what they're doing rather and seeing at the moment rather than realizing like the ball was still existing even when it was covered. The second one is pre-operational, which appears at age 2. And it's in part of their rapidly developing symbolical symbolic thinking abilities. Children can now think and talk about things beyond their immediate experience. However, they do not reason in logical adult-like ways, so they aren't able to comprehend things very well yet. The third one is concrete operations. Appears about 6 or 7. Adult-like logic appears but is limited to reasoning about concrete real-life situations. In the video, there were some examples of children when they were splitting up things like graham crackers or filling a cup half full and then having the same glass and then dumping it into a different glass if there was a greater amount. And children sometimes can't recognize that yet because even though it's still the same amount to their eye, it appears to be a larger amount in a cup. And then the last one is formal operations, which appears at about age 11 or 12, which is logical reasoning processes that are applied to abstract ideas as well as concrete objects and situations. Many of the capabilities essential for advanced reasoning in science and mathematics appear. So they have developed those things like object permanence, developed realizing that even if the glass size changes, if there's the same amount in a cup, it still stays the same, things like that. Egocentrism is the inability of a child in Piaget's pre-operational stage to view situations from another person's perspective. Conservation is realizing that if nothing is added or taken away, an amount stays the same regardless of any alterations in shape or arrangement. So just what we talked about earlier. Class inclusion is recognition that an object simultaneously belongs to a particular category and to one of its subcategories. Working memory is a component of memory that enables people to actively think about and process a small amount of information. Now, Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development. Socio-cognitive conflict is a situation in which one encounters and has to wrestle with ideas and viewpoints different from one's own. Cognitive tool is concept, symbol, strategy, or any other culturally constructive mechanism that helps people think more effectively. Self-talk, talking to oneself as a way of guiding oneself through a task. Inner speech is talking to oneself mentally rather than aloud as a way of guiding oneself through a task. Inner speech in your head, and then self-talk is you're actually talking to yourself. Zone of proximal development, which is the range of tasks that one cannot yet perform independently, but can perform with the help and guidance of others. So when kids are learning, the next thing that they're learning is write and reach, and they are able to comprehend it, but they can't figure it out on their own. So the teacher is there to help them figure that out, and once they help them, they're actually able to comprehend it and understand it, but it's just they're not able to get it right by themselves. Sociodramatic play, play in which children take on specific roles and act out a scenario of imaginary events. Meditated learning experience is a discussion between an adult and child in which the adult helps a child make sense of an event they have mutually experienced. Scaffolding is support mechanism, provide a more competent individual that helps a child successfully perform a task within his or her own proximal development. And we watch a video on scaffolding and then how it worked in the classrooms. Guided participation is active engagement in adult activities, initially with considerate direction from an adult or other more advanced individual, and subsequently with opportunities for increasing responsibility and independence. And reciprocal teaching is approach to teaching reading comprehension in which students take turns asking teacher-like questions of classmates, which is really good because they have in mind, and so they're teaching, which also helps learning quicker. Now in chapter 7, it was still on cognitive development, but it's the cognitive processes now. And basic cognitive processes are information processing theories, which are theoretical perspectives that focus on the specific ways in which people mentally acquire, interpret, and remember information, and how cognitive processes change over the course of development. A sensory register is a component of memory that holds incoming information in an analyzed form for a very brief time, which is 2 to 3 seconds, like brief time. Working memory is a component of memory that enables people to actively think about, process a small amount and process a small amount of information. Long-term memory is a component of memory that holds knowledge and skills for a relatively long period of time. Central executive is a component of the human information processing system that oversees the flow of information throughout the system. Automatization is the process of becoming able to respond quickly and efficiently while mentally processing or physically performing certain tasks. Knowledge base, one's knowledge about specific topics and the world in general. Schema is tightly integrated sets of ideas about a specific object or group situation. Script is a schema that involves a predictable sequence of events related to a common activity, and symbol is a mental entity that represents an external object or event, typically reflecting its perceptual and behavioral qualities. Metacognition and cognitive strategies. Metacognition is knowledge and beliefs about one's own cognitive process, as well as efforts to regulate those cognitive processes to maximize learning and memory. Cognitive strategy is a specific mental process that people initially use to acquire or manipulate information. Rehearsal is an attempt to learn and remember information by repeating it over and over. Organization is a process of identifying interrelationships among pieces of information as a way of learning them more effectively. So you're organizing them, setting them up. Elaboration is a process of using prior knowledge to embellish new information and thereby learn it more efficiently. Self-regulated learning is directing and controlling one's own cognitive processes in order to learn successfully. Metacognitive awareness is the extent to which people are able to reflect one's own nature of their own thinking processes. Subjectivity is awareness of shared perceptions and understandings that provide the foundation for social interaction. Joint attention is a phenomenon in which two people simultaneously focus on the same object or event, and they monitor each other's attention and coordinate their responses. Social referencing is looking at someone else's for clue and how to respond to a particular object or event. Autobiographical self is mental history of important events in one's own life. Co-regulated learning is a process through which an adult and child share responsibility for directing various aspects of child's learning. Theory is a theoretical perspective proposing that children construct increasingly integrated and complex understanding of physical and mental phenomenon. And a learning disability is a significant deficit in one or more cognitive processes to the point where special educational services are required. It could be they're not able to move as fast, they need more help on things, they need more time, so things like that. They have set aside classrooms for like extra help with math, just to help the child learn. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is a disability characterized by inattention, by hyperactivity and impulsive behavior, or by all the characteristics. And that's my module summary over those chapters about cognitive processes. Thank you.